Hello, beautiful souls. Welcome back to the Infinite Cup podcast. I'm your host, Robert Breton. This is an exciting episode with Adam. We really went down into the nitty gritty things about entrepreneurship, business, getting into what it means to be in this conscious community centered in the heart. We really got into Adam's path, how Adam Evans went from, doing a lot of things that were serving the head, how we made that transfer into the heart-centered 5D consciousness that is available to us on planet Earth. We just had a really good time talking about all things spirituality, what we do in this modern age. He's a practicing Buddhist, has a lot of information when it comes to spirituality, not really abiding to any one thing, just uplifting for the highest good of all. That's what we're all about here, right? Thank you guys again for being here. I really appreciate your support. If you are listening to this on iTunes, make sure you leave a review. That really helps bring the rankings up in the show. Thank you so much for purchasing my book, The Real Yoga. Thank you for everything that you guys do. I love this satsang, this conscious community that we're building here at the Infinite Cup. This is truly amazing. I would not be here without you guys. Thank you all for being here. And without any further ado, here's Adam and I having a heart-to-heart all about spirituality. I think it's going. Yeah, it's good. It's good on your end. Can you hear me all right?
Yep, all clear.
Sweet, brother. Yeah, I'm excited just to have you on the show. Excited to connect with you. I've been following you for a while and just wanted to, connect, talk about spirituality, talk about all the things that you're into. I mean, we have a lot in common. I don't have any notes or anything written down. My style is just very intuitive, just going with the flow. And yeah, just happy to be here with you.
Cool. Yeah. It's fun to do these. I don't do too many where I'm on other people's podcasts. Usually I'm hosting podcasts because I have one myself. So,
Yes.
yeah, it's interesting it's just fun to be on the other side of things. And I think I've been on like maybe 3 or 4 similar type of podcasts like Spiritual Niche, and then been invited to a few business ones. Haven't done those yet, but maybe at some point. I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah.
I find this stuff's more fun to talk about than
Yep.
business stuff. But
Yeah, I hear you.
I do the business stuff all day long. I don't need to talk about that on the side, as a hobby or yeah.
Well, that's what we're here to do is live a spiritual life. That's at the end of the day, business is great and all. I hear you though. It's definitely a rising thing, right? People want to have a conscious business and have a thing in line with their passion and everything. And we're kind of in this big, paradigm shift where people are wanting to get rid of all those jobs that, aren't serving them anymore. And it's stepping into this new entrepreneurship and social media. I mean, this digital age that we live in is just crazy. And I've had to, fully embrace it myself. I was living, off the grid, didn't have a cell phone, just in Alaska for many years. And it's, been a couple of years now of me just embracing everything and having a cell phone and jumping on social media. And it's been awesome, man. Yeah. So I totally get it. And I know where people are at. So for me, my channel is just about spirituality, health, and wellness. I'm a detox specialist as well. So it's something that just merging all of this together to really get this information out there to people in a very assimilable way where they can just digest it. And I just look at you and all the things that you're doing. You're very successful, and it's something that just sharing the light to everybody that wants to listen.
Yeah, it is. It is really cool having all the social media stuff and like I consider it like a quickening, and it really just speeds up the process of delivering this information to people. And that's sort of what my podcast is about. I try to gear my content in that direction as well when it comes to YouTube or my own Instagram page. But yeah, I think as long as people realize that there's good and bad in everything. So social media, there's obviously a bunch of garbage. So you got to filter through all that stuff. But
Yes.
once you clean up your feeds and you draw in or connect with the most positive stuff possible, it can really be like beneficial to people to get on social media and use it to their advantage. Like when I first started doing business stuff and everything, like having different types of businesses, there was no smartphones and no crazy social sites. Like I started before Facebook even. So it was just like slowly starting to adapt this technology to what I do is yeah, it's really been what I've been involved in of the past several years now. So it's cool now that anyone can pick up a smartphone though and start to make money, start to
Dude,
like reach a
yeah.
mass audience, and just you can be anywhere. And smartphones are so cheap now. Like
Yep.
It's not.
I think about the 12, 13-year olds out there, like we didn't have this growing up ourselves, like you're saying. And it's something that just anybody with that technology in their pocket, they can literally do anything, whatever niche they're in, it's amazing. So I agree with you. I call it content diarrhea. There's so much out there. It's just crazy. And it takes a lot of energy to kind of whittle through that. But you're right. Once you have that particular feed and the positive people, you're really going to do, aspire to what those people are doing. So just a little, introduction for people that don't know about you and your podcast and everything that you're doing on the digital webs here. Just give a little introduction for yourself.
Sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I have, I don't think I'll get too much into the business stuff, but I do have several businesses. I've been an entrepreneur for my whole life, pretty much. I mean, I briefly, I suppose, was working somewhere. Like I washed dishes for a bit, and then I worked at a grocery store, but I was getting paid like dirt cheap minimum wage.
Yeah.
So I pretty much quit after 2 or 3 months of that. And I was like, no, I'm just going to go full with the entrepreneurial thing. It's neat to see how it has become popular now, people being like entrepreneurs doing it all online. So when I started, my first main business was like in digital marketing, and we did a lot of gaming projects for gaming, like big gaming companies and stuff like that. So I was in like a gaming niche. And then that turned into me just starting up all types of different businesses. So like women's clothing stores, dog products, like anything I can really think of, I just create it and do it. So the main business I have now, so I actually will sell businesses off as well, but the main one I have now is a digital media marketing company. And then I have a podcast called We the Ether, which is basically just me interviewing people, a lot of authors, scientists, musicians. I had a Buddhist Lama on there. He's kind of a mentor of mine, Lama Surya Das. Mm-hmm. A lot of social media influencers as well, like Vishuddha Das, who's formerly Koi Fresco, Elliot Hulse. Yeah, a lot of really cool people. And initially I started reaching out to people kind of like you're doing as well, like just reaching out through DM and stuff. Mm-hmm. But I find that the booking process is just a little bit like tedious. So I hired an assistant just recently, actually, maybe about a month ago, and she's been handling all the bookings now. So I mostly just reach out to people that I kind of feel that connection to, or like I'm already following them, and I'll message them directly. But otherwise, she just handles everything, and that just made things so much smoother now. So now the bookings just come through, and then I just speak with these different people. It's really cool. I consider like these type of conversations to be a digital sangha or satsang. Yeah, like a spiritual community that people can share, and it's like a non-judgmental space where people can hold conversations. So I really just like talking with all those really interesting people. And the Instagram page, a page for We the Ether, is getting pretty big as well. So I've really been working hard on that with a few people that I work with for my different businesses. And yeah, and on my personal side, I am involved in health and fitness. Like I have a YouTube channel around that. I have a martial arts background. I compete in powerlifting, which I haven't competed actually in over a year now. So it's hard for me to even say that, but I do powerlifting. My last competition was really bad too. So I need to get back, but
yeah. Well, you're juggling a lot of things, man.
Congrats. Yeah. It takes a lot of work, especially with the lifting stuff, because it really challenges you. Like you have to be able to get a bunch of weight off the ground. So if your central nervous system isn't in check, if your stress can bring it all down, like if you're trying to reach the peak maximal weight, 100% of what you can lift, it's a challenging thing. And for me to compete, I need months leading up to that to train, get ready for it, get on a program. So I like the challenge of the whole thing. I've only been doing powerlifting for like maybe 5 or 6 years now. Mm-hmm. But I really do enjoy it. Prior to that, I was just like athletic and martial arts. Sweet. I think that pretty much sums up what I'm in.
Yeah, no, that's great, brother. Yeah, like I said, people that are tapping into this, it's just awesome to see that you tapped into it so early. I'd like to call it's the the shift from that consumer to the creator, right? And obviously, you're that creator putting out all this amazing thing, whether it's in the business avenue or the spiritual avenue. There's so much to do, and just get out like with this opportunity with the internet and just these all digital wave that we kind of live in. So it's just exciting. Yeah, it's really exciting to see someone just thriving in it. So you mentioned Lama Surya Das. Yeah, I'm familiar with that. I'm just curious where, so would you call yourself Buddhist, or would you call any particular path that you resonate with? I'm just curious kind of how that side started for you.
I originally, when I was growing up, my mother is pretty much like Irish Catholic, Roman Catholic descent, and
Mm-hmm.
so I was very averse to Catholicism and Christianity and religion as a whole.
Yeah.
I was very like almost triggering if someone talked to me about Christ or God or
Yeah.
any of these things.
Mm-hmm.
But then eventually I kind of embraced this all. I was more drawn to Buddhism, which just I didn't really know why growing up, but then later I kind of became more and more drawn to Buddhism and Zen specifically.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Lama Surya Das teaches Dzogchen meditation, and he's of the Dzogchen lineage, which is a Tibetan Buddhist practice. I'm very drawn to Zen as a whole, but I wouldn't put myself under any specific religion. Like I practice little bits of everything. So I like how Ram Dass puts it. He's like, I'm a Hindu, Buddhist. You know, he just kind of
Oh
just
yeah.
lists them all off, right? So it's more like a multi-faith
Yeah.
approach, because I don't feel that any one particular, you know what, I'd say if anything, I'm drawn to the religion of the heart. That's what I've been really
It's
thinking of a lot
beautiful.
lately.
Yeah.
And that's it's not even really, it's hard to call it a religion, but this is just
Yeah.
it. If I'm going to claim something as worth following, it's the heart, and move shift everything into the heart.
Yeah.
And that's what a lot of the religions communicate across. You know, it's pretty crazy.
Yes.
So
Oh,
every time I talk to
100%.
people, like when I talk to a monk or an author that teaches this type of stuff, they're all speaking about the heart.
Yeah.
Like it connects and unifies everything.
Yeah, I could not agree more. And I mean, that's the center of everything. I've completely resonated with that. For me, I'm certified in what's called Raja Yoga. It just means royal. So it encompasses all of the paths. And it's something like Bhakti, you know, that center, having that anchor in the heart is so important. And yeah, everyone that I've interviewed, everyone that I've come across, every guru, teacher, anybody always has something to say about that, right? And the word religion, we don't even have to use that. It's something that, you know, whatever floats your boat, right? So it's if that's what's bringing you more empowerment and helping your life and productivity, then great, go for it. At the end of the day, we need to bring you know, love back into everything. That's kind of how I look at this. So especially with business, I'm sure you've seen that a lot. Businesses that especially nowadays aren't, you know, successful because they don't have that passion, they don't have that heart-centered connection anymore. And people, I feel like especially nowadays, are very transparent. You know, we have to be transparent in this digital age, and if you're not doing something that you love, it's not going to last. So all of those things are crumbling. And I really feel like, especially here on planet Earth, it's the school of the heart, especially, you know, unconditional love, right? Because we were all programmed in some way for duality, being in that conditional love. And now those things are slowly fading, and we're coming into the real heart-centered consciousness. And whatever path gets you there, whether it's Buddhism or yoga or anything, I'm all for it, because at the end of the day, that's what we're here to do. So it's amazing just seeing the natural, you know, organic progression for someone like yourself, because I mean, I completely resonate with Ram Dass and everything, and it's something that we all are doing together. We're, you know, shedding those old layers and really encompassing what that means to live in the heart every day with every single thing that we do. So I commend you for that. And I think people are all on that evolution of the soul. It just doesn't matter the pace that you're on. It's happening whether you realize it or not.
That's a good way to put it. I like the way you said the layers, because it's like the layers are built up from the human story from birth, and even some
Yeah.
could argue prior to that even.
Mm-hmm.
So those layers, it is about just kind of peeling them away. And I find when people are able to do that, they can find their true passion and true calling. And even when what you mentioned about the business stuff, like if I waver in any bit with my business, and if what I'm doing, if I'm not passionate about it, I see it like it affects the business. So it is something like I have to constantly be on top of. And especially if anyone's listening that wants to be an entrepreneur, it's like you need to think about it, what you want to achieve, and like work on it constantly. Like it's a non-stop thing. You don't clock in and out. It's like 24/7 your mind's going. But then at the same time, you can't get too caught up or wrapped up in that logical thinking. You need to then shift to the heart. So run everything through the heart. It's like your filter, you know. And that's really the that's the important part. When I was younger, I just did everything in the head. Now I have to filter everything through the heart afterwards, and because the head's a great tool, it's a great piece of technology, the brain. It's amazing. I love to study the brain as well. That's like so part of my pastimes. I just love to listen to audiobooks and just read constantly. I pretty much stopped listening to music, though I love it, but outside of chanting, I still listen to chanting and audiobooks.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's anything that's uplifting to your consciousness. Slowly, as people get awake or more aware, it's something that you have to really be strict about what you let into your energy field, right? And over time, I mean, just like you, certain music, certain movies, certain things you understand are just not producing the type of energy that you're after anymore. So you have to do things that are uplifting and things that are going to help your business and help your romantic life. Everything, if it's not serving that, then it's got to go. And that's kind of, I get questions, I'm sure you do all the time as well, about how to what optimal performance or keywords all the time. And it's like, at the end of the day, it's just, this is a daily practice, and like you're saying, it's 24/7, especially if you're an entrepreneur. This is something that you have to be aware of all the time. And you're right, I feel like what's happened is that the old shift was to the brain, to the head, and now we have to learn to undo that and filter through the heart, like you're saying, because a lot of the things that might seem logical aren't serving us any longer. It's very temporary, and it might seem good on paper, but when you put it into a practice, it just doesn't feel good. And now we're shifting into our feelings and our emotions and really cleansing all of those impurities out. And I think it's just exciting to see it become popular on social media. Something like embracing emotional trauma, or something like yoga or tai chi or whatever like that is having this reinsurgence, right? I mean, it's been around for thousands of years, but all of a sudden it's really becoming alive again, because I think people are just tired of the old ways. They're tired of all the things that they're happening, whether it's the pharmaceutical end or the food end. I mean, we can talk all about it. It's just crazy how something as ancient as Buddhism or yoga is now really popular, because the world is just in so much need right now.
Hmm. Yeah, I think it's just because they get to that point where it's like too much information, too much garbage, too much nonsense, and then people just need to turn inwards at that point, because it's too much seeking. I was talking with an author yesterday on a podcast, and he mentioned the realm of the hungry ghosts, which is basically a Buddhist concept. And it's constantly trying to feed this hungry ghost it never is satiated, never satisfied. So when you realize that, like, you can have all the money, you can have all the social media likes, all the followers, everything, but if you're just feeding, you're dumping it into an endless well. So once someone comes to that realization, then they turn back and look inward, and then they find something that's more deeply rooted in truth and reality, as opposed to such visceral, passing, fleeting things that is social media and all this stuff. Again, great tool, but needs to be used like wisely. I like to just say you kind of have to sit in a position of like the witness, or have a certain awareness as you're using these things. And if you feel something affect your energy, if you feel like, oh, this isn't, as you said, serving me, then you can kind of do away with it, and it's pretty quick. And then the results of those actions is very quick as well. Like, if it's like a sailboat, and if you adjust course just slightly in any decision you make, it yields massive results if you look at it like 2, 3, 4, 5 years down the road. And it's just about having these certain foresights, as opposed to trying to rely on hindsight when you reach that and you're like, shit, fuck, I fucked up, I could have done this 2 years ago. But if you take that time and use the heart and filter it, and don't just rely on the TikTok brain, then you can start to have this foresight or insight or intuition, as some people call it.
Yeah. I agree completely. And it's all, for me, it's all about experience, right? That's the thing that's going to create that sustainability throughout time. And I'm curious for you, what was that, one thing that kind of made that shift, from your head to your heart? Was it a particular class or music or experience? I'm just curious, what was that for you? There's always something that kind of really sends people over the edge, right? Where it's like, okay, I'm centered in my heart now. I'm not just going to go do that thing anymore, whatever that old thing was. It's usually something pretty dramatic in one person's life. And I'm just curious what that was for you.
So for me, it was probably, I'm just thinking, it's probably about maybe 7 or 8 years back. And it was just, as I just said, it was being very successful, but not being happy.
Yeah.
And it was just like, just being so like depressed and upset. And I was going out like constantly drinking. I got overweight. Like, if you go to my personal Instagram page and scroll down, I'll probably post an updated one, but I have a transformation photo where I'm like just a fatty. Yeah. And then because I was eating poorly, super overweight from drinking. I a few nights I would just be throwing up so much from drinking, and then like I would start vomiting blood a little bit from my esophagus, like just the
Jeez.
lining of it,
Mhm.
from the excessive throwing up. So I was
Yeah.
like, this is crazy. And I'd be like on the like people make memes of this stuff, but you're on the bathroom floor laying down, and
Mhm.
it's like, the praying to the porcelain gods, because you're like, why is this happening to me? Why
Oh,
do I
yeah.
feel this way? But you're just punishing the body, and this is all ego.
Mhm.
Like ego punishes the body, right? Because it
Mhm.
holds on to blame, resentment, fear, anxiety. Like it thrives on these things. So
Mhm.
I had to recognize this, and then I listened to some books, Eckhart Tolle books. So
Great.
the Power of Now.
Yep.
Also, Tao Te Ching was one that really did it for me,
Yep.
because especially I think it's the Stephen Mitchell translation of it. I listened to that repeatedly over and over and over again, pretty much till I could recite it. And then at that, which I was kind of what I do with things now. It's like if something
Mhm.
resonates with me, I'll just repeat it over and
Yeah.
over again. I
Mhm.
do it a lot, like with the Hanuman Chalisa.
Mhm.
Um, Also, a really good book for that is the Diamond Sutras, or the Shiva Sutras as well. Like they're
Mhm.
very good just to constantly bring you back into that space, the heart
Yes.
space, the heart center. And yeah, so really I had to like just recognize that ego and the realm of the hungry ghost, as I mentioned earlier. And once I came to that realization, I knew that I had to go on a path that was just more conducive with just being like healthy for me. So I just started
Yeah.
losing weight, um, and then just starting to try create content and help other people do the same thing. And that's I feel like that's part of my purpose, is to create content
100%.
or create a platform to help other people do the same. Because otherwise, it's like, why be here?
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, I had the same similar journey. I feel like we all have to go through that, and the suffering, is what opens us up, right? That thing, although we don't, really admit it or want to be in it when it's happening, it's just that's what really opens up the heart and allows these opportunities to happen. Otherwise, you would still be, drinking like that and doing all those horrible things. So, it's something I think everybody will go through eventually. I have no judgment on how it happens. It's just interesting to me how, at the end of the day, that suffering is the experience that's necessary to create this open heart in order to actually take that shift. And you're right. The ego 100% is, in the game. And unless we have, parents that were teaching us or something, that were very young, then this is going to happen organically like that, because I really believe that this is going to happen to everybody, and it's just a matter of time and how much you like embrace it, right? Because someone like yourself with your personality, it's just like go, 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 and then you took the party, to that phase, and then you can only go so far. Like I don't care how party or whatever thing you're into, whatever toxic drug, alcohol, doesn't matter. It's like you're gonna hit that wall eventually. And same thing with money, same thing with anything material, right? It's like you're gonna hit that wall, and it's like it's not creating that happiness anymore. And everyone will soon find, doesn't matter how many cars you have or businesses or whatever, you will eventually learn that lesson. And I'm just, thankful for me that happened early on. So I just don't have to create that, repetition in my life. And there's something, that resonated with me when you were talking, because you have to put this into a practice, right? And it's something, with your audiobooks and with what you're talking about with mantras and affirmations, like just putting this into your field constantly, right? That's the thing I think people are missing. Like for people that are listening and watching, it's like there's no magic pill, there's no recipe, there's no one overnight anything. This doesn't happen for, everybody like that. It's something that you have to put into practice every single day. And you're putting in the work. Obviously, it shows through your, social media outlets, and something like for me too. That's why I had to, jump on board with all this, because you have to really show people what you're doing. You have to be transparent about it and show the books you're reading and the practices that you're doing. And it's something that you have to put in that work. You have to do the, quote unquote inner work, right? And that's the thing that we're all doing. It's just the way that I look at it. It's like the speed, like the evolution, like how bad do you want it? How much are you willing to do? Like the analogy of like we have to want it like the drowning man wants his last breath, right? If you really think about that analogy, it's like, wow, we're living, a life that we're just taking everything for granted, and it's not conducive to the soul, right? And for me, I had to, figure this out by changing my environment. A lot of the things that I was absorbing were in my environment. A lot of people's issues and things that I was attracting into my life was coming from my environment. And I tell people, just change your environment. We all have that judging mind, and it's all about putting yourself in the right environment for you to thrive, rather than just constantly blaming yourself and constantly, being in that judging victim mentality.
Yeah, the cells of our body, they learn basically from the
Mm-hmm.
environment we put ourselves in. And this goes from even your thoughts. Like everything, I post a lot on my podcast Instagram that everything is vibration, everything is frequency. Like
Yes.
it all impacts like how you manifest, how you project, how you emanate yourself into the world. It all comes from your thoughts and your actions and your environment that you put yourself in, and that's done through your actions. um, yeah, it's I try to just surround myself with as much positive things as I can, because
Yeah.
like you said, it's a constant practice 24/7, because like the second you wake up, it's like everything you experience is not necessarily going to be contrary to a spiritual practice. But the time we live in, like if you just
Yeah.
walk around a major city, it's like there's not much spiritual stuff going on. It's just like a
Yeah.
bunch of, so you have to like put yourself, do some sort of practice so that you can then see the love in everything, see the God in everything.
Yes.
You can just like walk around and be in that space, and then hopefully help others or share that space with other people as well.
Yep. That's the end. I mean, the selfless service is kind of, the empathy. These are the end results that we're talking about that every human is going to reach. It's something that we all have that within us, because once you reach the top, it's like, oh, you just want to, help other people. You want to, put your arm down there and say, come on, let's do this. It's inevitable. And I had a very similar progression in the body. You're just living life by what you can only see with your two eyes. And then you're opened up to this magical, universe that's beyond everything that you can ever comprehend. And that happens through whatever, suffering or mystical kundalini, whatever word you want to use there. And this is something that, like I said, it's all happening. It's just a matter of how much we can shift into that conscious mind and do this consciously, rather than living, by the subconscious, which is, just tied into repeated memories and these things. That's where a lot of suffering is happening for people. I believe it's just tied to the subconscious, rather than actively changing and taking action on what you're trying to create and be that change in your community, in your state, in your whole world. And that will ripple out, just like you're saying with energy. I'm a big fan of the law of attraction. The law of magnetism is what it's called in yoga, right? Everything in energy, everything is energy. And if you can just focus on that and have that mindfulness practice to be able to be aware of your thoughts. I love what you're saying too about Ram Dass and, the witness mode or the observer mode, because it's what I like to call the cosmic view. If you just step back, and get into this cosmic view and get out of that little small self and connect with your higher self and connect to your intuition and actually be guided through life, rather than listening to that small self, the ego that's always tied to sense gratification and getting you into misery and pain all the time. That roller coaster gets very tiring after a while, very exhausting too. So you tend to, want to reach for something a little bit more sustainable, a little more uplifting to the soul. And for me, yeah, changing my environment, being in ashrams, living in temples, changing my diet, lifestyle, everything, comes down to that, because we are energy, and the more, like I said, you can do it consciously, the more results that you're going to get, and then you're going to feel within your everyday life.
I like how you even said before, like how bad do you want it? Like
Mm-hmm.
if you really think of, you can actually do a practice, or if anyone's listening, I even suggest doing it, but practice meditating or doing meditations on death or dying.
Mm-hmm.
So bring yourself to a place of dying or death. It will be painful. Like you will probably, I've cried before doing it, because
Oh yeah.
you literally have to bring yourself to that place. You have to envision losing everyone you've ever known,
Yeah.
every memory you've ever had.
Yeah.
And this practice is a good practice leading one into actual death, or someone if they want to try psychedelics, because if they do psychedelics, you're pushed over the cliff of that, as opposed to taking the meditation, which is you just slowly inching up to the edge. And maybe you're not going to reach that edge on this
Yeah.
particular day, but in a week, after 5-7 days of practice, you'll get to that edge, and maybe you'll jump over.
Yeah.
But if once you do that jump, then you can realize that, like, how bad do you want it? This is all there is. Like coming to this realization, this awakening, this is like the only thing that, this is like goal number one: self mastery.
Yeah.
And being able to awaken yourself and have that, allow your soul or your spirit or your higher self, whatever you want to call it, flow through freely, without the fog or the obstruction of ego.
Yeah.
Like ego is pretty much inherent. It's like our world is a stage, and we all just put on these masks and these costumes. But after it's done, after the play is done, we take them off. If you're a fool if you think that's your shit,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You walk off stage with your costume, you go outside, and everyone's like, "What are you doing, man? Like, why you got your costume on still?" So we all have to realize, like, and bringing yourself to the point of death, it actually will allow you to even bring yourself to the point of realizing your true self or your original face from before you were born, which is like a Buddhist or Zen teaching, or koan even. And it helps someone realize that original face, because it's the same as the one after death. And now I've had actually some interesting trips where I had a DMT trip coming out of it, and it was your original face is theirs. Her original face is that of the other, perceived other in the play, because it's all just one drop in the same ocean at that plane. So, you know, we all have certain individual aspects of ourselves and our personalities, but it's some of it come from higher self or soul plane, but most of it's ego. So it's just allowing that other higher whatever. I don't even like.
Yeah, I know what you mean. It's hard to get out of duality. You know, we're very much stuck into it: higher, lower, hot, cold, up, down, and that's what we're doing. All of these things, you know, is where we started at. We can get new agey and call it 3D, and, you know, shifting into the 5D conscious. Absolute self is good. Yep.
Like, yeah, it's absolute. It's at this level that's beyond time. It's like infinite, boundless. It has no fear. It has no death.
Yeah.
It has no parents. It is pure cosmic energy, if you want to call it that.
Yep.
And it's sourced from love. Yep. And love 100%. Is even a cheesy word to use to describe.
I know. I know.
It's the only one we really have.
I know. I like to throw the word unconditional love on it, because that's kind of the, you know, the difference there.
It really describes it, because
I know.
Tied or associated to what you would receive from a parent or give to your child. But I feel it even supersedes this.
It does.
It has absolutely no conditions whatsoever. If you throw things at it that are fear, any anxiety, anything, it dissolves immediately upon just the radiant glory of this love. Like it dissolves. I've had meditations where I've tried to greet and know this love, and it dissolves my flesh, my bones. I'm like in the friggin' Avengers movie, and Thanos snapped his fingers, and I'm just like gone, and it's just all that's left is my heart. And that's why I know that the heart is part of this gateway, because all that's left connected to the source that's so radiant is the heart. So
100%. No, spot on. And like I said, it's this natural progression, this evolution of the soul that we're all a part of. And the more you can bring that into practice, like, what are you doing to, you know, feed that soul, feed the heart? Because at the end of the day, that's really where the magic is in life. And that's what we're here to do. The death experience is huge, because that's, you know, until you lose it all is when you start embracing it, right? And start being grateful for even the smallest things. And that's the thing, is a lot of people right now are basically trying to play God, live on top of this totem pole. I mean, I've had, you know, plenty of psychedelic experiences, and then many natural experiences, like something in Alaska as simple as seeing a bear, right? When you see a bear that's like 30 feet from you, it's like, whoa, it's like this awareness, not a fear based, like, oh, this is going to eat me, but very much an awareness, like, whoa. And then you just get knocked down a few points in that totem pole, you know? It's like, wow, that was very humbling. And something like that, you know, the way that I look at it is every human had that, you know, in their normal life. And now, because we live in such a domesticated world and things are so, you know, different, it's you know, that got replaced with your boss, and that flight or fight responses change, you know, when you see your boss, when it should have been a bear, and blah blah blah. Like those chemicals and those, you know, neuroreceptors, all of those things are happening. There's no different, you know, as far as the DNA and what's happening with the chemical reaction in our body. It's just our environment has changed so much, whether it's the food we eat, you know, the animals, everything is completely different. So the way that I look at it, what I've done in my life is put myself in, you know, very wild, you know, unpreserved, undomesticated places where I can, you know, bring that soul, bring that connection, you know, happen kind of organically, where to me, it's happening to a lot of people, like traditional people that still live off the land, people, hunter-gatherer type people, those few that are still out there, like they're living what we're talking about right now without any books and without any religion, quote unquote, or anything, right? Because they're still closer to that, you know, preserved natural earth. And here we are, you know, in the Western world, or something that's just very different than everything used to be. And it's like I said earlier, with those layers, if we can just take all of those back, that's our true natural state. And I think a lot of people are basically unhappy because of that, because of these conveniences, whether it's as something as like, as simple as a refrigerator or a toilet or whatever. All of these things are, really messing up our natural rhythms. I'm not saying that the toilet's bad or whatever. I'm just saying we have to, like, for me, I have to put a lot of things into my life just to kind of get back to that nature, get back to that wild, essence that really makes us human. That automatically centers us in our heart because we're grateful. Like, for me, whether it's collecting my own water, getting food, things like that. I love foraging. I love doing, things like that. And it's like, that's what really connects me into what we're talking about here. And it makes me feel whole again. I don't really get that when I go to the grocery store.
I know what you mean. I prefer to go to farmers markets, but I do go to the grocery
Yes,
store now and
farmers
then.
markets are great.
Yeah, and I do like, I don't have too much space to grow my own. I mean, I could grow a lot of my own stuff, but
Yeah,
pretty much moving to a new place to get more farm space and to get like a
yeah,
chicken coop and all this other stuff.
cool.
Yeah, I mean, I lived in the center of the city of Toronto for many years, like 8 years or so, and that's just crazy. It's chaotic. So I mean,
Yeah,
now I'm just on the outside of it, and I'm just moving a little bit further next. So
yeah,
yeah, it's pretty much, that's why I think if you have a regular practice, or if you listen to things constantly like chants or mantras, it's really like if you're on the
yes,
toilet using the fridge, all these luxuries, listen to something that's going to just keep you in a good place. So
I agree.
and then go out and we'll go for walks in nature, and then go camping, and then you can
Yeah,
appreciate, like when I come back from camping, I appreciate everything. Like a nice bed.
yes.
Oh my God, like a bed is amazing when you come back. Or
Yes,
if I go for a long hike, it's just yeah, I go for hikes often, and I have two dogs, so they pretty much keep me out all the time.
yeah,
I talk a lot about nature bathing, forest bathing.
good.
There's some good research.
Yeah, yeah. Isn't it funny, like how the science, is proving this stuff, like this mystical, stuff or whatever that's been around for a long time, and something as simple as like earthing, right? It's like, yes, we can talk about the science and like the negative ions and all the EMF, exposure that we have these days, and it's something as simple as taking off your shoes and walking around barefoot is going to help your body. I mean, it's something that it's just kind of exciting to see science. I think quantum physics has the best language right now that's slowly trying to, prove all of these things. And at the end of the day, we, the energy that we're talking about, all the things that we thought were real are not real at all. They're not physical. They're not tangible, right? It's something that's ever evolving. Our definitions and our terminology and vocabulary of this, ecstatic states or these transcendental states. And to me, the path of the yogi, the thing that I've prescribed to is like we have to do something every day that connects us with that higher self or our soul, and really anchor in that heart-centered consciousness, right? We have to do something every single day as a practice, like you're saying, if you're using the toilet or refrigerator, like you're listening to audiobooks and things that are going to really anchor you in that. Otherwise, your environment and the people are just going to take that away from you. They're going to put you right back into the head and to the ego, into this, numbing kind of state that a lot of people, I call it the zombie mode, right? When I am traveling, like I'm from California, and there's a lot of, whether it's the old job, I worked in a grocery store as well, worked at Whole Foods for a while, and I walk back in there, it's just like these complete zombie mode. People are not happy, stocking shelves and stuff. You can see these layers where people are basically not abiding to that higher self, right? And that's what happens. There's this disconnect when you're not listening to that intuition, when you're not listening to your guides. And a lot of people are abiding to the head, abiding to that mind, that voice that says, just pay your bills and do this and do that. And they're not really even thinking about the heart at all. It's like a vacation or whatever they get once a year type of thing. And that's not okay to me. It's really not. It just, it takes a lot of courage, and it takes a lot of energy to kind of go against the grain because of this, world that we put ourselves in.
Yeah, we really are kind of immersed in it. But yeah, as long as someone has some good practices to ground or anchor them,
Yeah.
as you said, it
Yeah.
it really can help bring you back, or bring you back into reality. Anyways.
Yeah. Yes, 100%. Well, cool, brother. Yeah, I'm just curious. Any other practice that you want to share with people that are listening, like that you do, whether it's meditation or you mentioned martial arts? That's a wonderful. All of these things, like I said, are rooted in something that's very amazing and mystical that helps keep us in that heart centered, consciousness. And I'm just curious for you.
I think lifting weights
Mhm.
is important, because it helps. At first, it helps ground the
Yeah,
person, but also when you're getting to lift things that are first, just challenging yourself with that is great too. The feeling I get from lifting something very heavy is it's akin to like a high, a crazy high, like a shroom high or a DMT high. But I'm not up in the clouds with this high. I'm grounded in the high. It's a completely different type of high. And it's because you're releasing all the biochemicals that are readily available in your body. Your central nervous system is getting great benefits from it as well. Your immune system, your overall health. You're triggering your fight or flight if you're doing a heavy squat. In my case, I'm throwing on like lots of weight on a squat, and I'm down in the bottom. I'm like, oh boy, this could crush me. Like, I do have safety pins, but and I know how to fail and bail out because I've been training for many years. But there's always inherent risk in this thing, and it's, if you want a nice way to challenge yourself and trigger that fight or flight and come through it on the other end, it's a magical experience to then have that achievement. And when I see people that have not started weightlifting or powerlifting or strength training of any sort, like, and then they start, just like the confidence they build for themselves is so amazing. So that's a practice I would suggest. Also, intermittent fasting or time restricted eating is really important as well, because when you restrict yourself of foods, now you can start to get in again, bring yourself back into resonance or into a harmony with all things, with like the universe. You feel it when you're fasting. I'm not a fan of no water, like dry fasts.
Sure.
But some people do that because they're interested in kind of taking the water away from your gut, because you want to clear out certain like bad biomes and whatnot, and you want to get healthy gut microbiome. So I'm not a huge fan of that though. So I think water fasts are good, but some people do the dry fasting. I'm trying to think of any other practice. I mean, those two are really quite effective.
Yeah, I like to think of it too. My theory is like those things exactly what we're talking about brings you into the now. Like when you're squatting, when you have that weight on you, you can't think about the future. You can't think about the past. You're there. You can't think about your dogs. Yep. Yes. Yeah, whatever, practice can center you in the now. That's how I look at this, because I agree with you. For me too, it's more like endurance things. I love riding my bike, thousands of miles and doing things, pushing that bar, whatever that means. I love rock climbing, doing things I've never done before. When I'm, climbing on that rock and you're looking down there, it's like, you don't have time to be scared or do anything. You have to push it, and I think that's what's missing right now, is whatever that is, that's keeping you from experiencing that happiness, is because you're not in the now. You're not, you're distracted, and we live in a world, with our phones and social media or whatever, we're basically constantly distracted, like 90% of the day, I would say. And for me, like something as simple as meditation, that's, something I do every day that will, purposely I try to do every day to bring me into that now in a very conscious, clear way. Weightlifting, whatever, it doesn't matter what you're doing, whatever you can do to really center you in the now, because that's where the magic is in life. And like I said, whether you're riding your bike, whatever that practice is, that's going to bring you into the heart. That's going to activate we can talk about the chemicals and your nervous system, all those wonderful things, but it's something that I think is essential just to have a healthy, happy life. And people need to do more of whatever that is. Also, we didn't talk about this, but it's the same thing as like going up on stage or doing public speaking or anything like that, right? Like, it doesn't have to be physical, is my point, for somebody listening or watching that is not interested in meditation or lifting weights. It's like you just have to challenge yourself, and even talking to a new friend, like going out to a public place, right, and saying hi to that girl or to that boy or whatever, that's going to produce that same energy, right? Because it's really centering you into the now.
Yeah, don't be a mechanical human being and just walk around the world like that. You got to take yourself out of that, and to do it, challenge yourself here and there.
I love that. What you've said with mechanics, because I feel like that's where like the world is headed, this AI mechanical robot, world. That's where all this energy is happening. And the more that this is happening towards that, the more that these practices, like what Ram Dass talks about, or any spiritual teacher talks about, those teachings are going to become more valuable as time goes on. And I've already seen that. It's just amazing how quickly it's happening because of this, artificial world that we live in, whether it's the food, like we're being blinded on every corner. Even the water we drink, everything, you know, is very toxic on the surface, but you don't really think about it, right? It's very invisible. And that's kind of the world we live in now. We've kind of transferred into this invisible warfare. So that's why we got to be conscious about everything that we do, every thought, every, you know, drop of water. And I completely agree with you with fasting too. It's something that I've done quite a bit. And you don't have to take it to that extreme as dry fasting, though. A lot of people that are into that, it's the same thing. It might take a dry fast to bring them into the now. They say it because they're so distracted in life. And it's not until you have that, you know, feeling in your gut, the core of your being, and you haven't had food or water for, you know, 36 hours or something, where it's like, but you're centered, you're connected right there. And even food, right, could be that distraction that's taking us out of the now and throwing us into this other emotional comfort or this other thing that's not in line with our highest good of all, is like what I like to say.
Food can be like something that is going to bring you into memories. It's going to bring you into it's crazy what it does, like, because you're taking in these, it's weird. It's like when I've been high and tried to eat, I like don't even want to eat. Like if I've been on psilocybin mushrooms and someone puts like the most amazing looking cheeseburger in front of me, I'm just like, what is this? Like, but if I'm not high, I'll devour that thing. So it's I find fasting is going to bring someone close to that sort of high type of state that they would be in from any sort of psychedelic.
Yeah.
Which is the same you would get from deep breathing, prana, anything, Wim Hof method, or meditations, you know, anything to get you to that high space. I also, again, do find it's important not to stay up there all the time, though, in that high space, which is why I think the weightlifting is great, because it's the grounded high. It brings you back down, but still gives you some sort of like a really great sense of accomplishment.
Yeah, no, you're totally right. The way that, I mean, when you say the word high or ground, I just think of chakras, right? I don't know how familiar you are, but it's like a lot of people are basically stuck in their first two chakras, and they need this, you know, kundalini. They need the shift into the higher chakras, and that's important. But you're right. You can't stay up here in your head and crown chakra forever. You know, you got to come back down. It's about balance. It's not about this, you know, blast off experience.
You're incarnated, right?
Yeah.
You know, even when I get high, sometimes the message delivered to me is like, what are you doing here?
Oh, dude, that's the only message I get. That's the only message I get now, because the magic is here. You know, you have a physical body for a reason. You have a very specific purpose and mission that you're supposed to do. Otherwise, you wouldn't have this form at all. So I think right now people are desperate for that high, you know, getting out of their body and stuff, because of the world that we live in and these things that we've talked about, whether it's the food or the artificial intelligence or whatever. People just, you know, want sincerity. They want truth, you know, and that's really what it is. And this shift that's happening, you know, you have to figure out how you can do it sustainably. For me, it's meditation. You know, weightlifting is wonderful, you know, because a lot of those things, even psychedelics, they can not be sustainable, right? They can lead you to places that you are going to hit that wall eventually. So you have to find something that's, you know, going to keep you from hitting that wall where it's endless, it's infinite. It's that practice. Like when I meditate, when you're lifting, it's like you can always do more. You can always, you know, get more out of it. It's not like boring. It's never going to, you know, create that down, you know, effect. Like you're saying, I like how you worded it too, because you're staying rooted and grounded even though you're getting this high. Because a lot of people, like I said, are just blasting off and they're not, you know, coming back to earth sort of thing. Because and I get that, because again of our conditioning. You know, we have, you know, birth, old age, disease, and death, and it sucks. You know, it's something that we all have, and that's all, you know, that contract that we signed in order to get here on planet Earth, and it's something that we all have to do. It's just not very comfortable, right? This is not our home. This is something that it's very temporary, you know, in the cosmic view, in this longer spectrum that we're all doing. And it's something that we need to have that practice that keeps us rooted, like you're saying, grounded, and also creates that, you know, shift in our energy and balances the chakras, because otherwise we're just not going to be happy. You're going to get trapped in one of those chakras, and, you know, there's going to get blockages, and there's going to create a lot of suffering in your life.
Yeah, and I like you mentioned Kundalini. I haven't practiced it too much, but my wife, she does a lot of that stuff.
You're doing it.
Yeah, I mean, I don't do the actual, some, you know how they have the exercises and the breath work.
Oh, yes, you're talking about the Kriyas, like the actual Kriya. Yeah,
the actual practice to.
Yes.
Yeah. I haven't. I think I've done it a couple times, but very interested in that as well. I post some stuff about that on the podcast Instagram.
Cool.
Yeah, that's really neat.
Awesome, brother. Well, yeah. Yeah, thanks for being here. I don't want to take too much of your time. How can people find you? Let's plug your channel, plug your podcast, all the good things that you're doing in the digital world. And yeah, thanks again for being here.
Yeah, it's always a pleasure. And again, I love having these chats. They're a bit outside the norm because, I might just hop on like some random business call next and have to talk about something like that. Completely different, looking at Excel sheets and all this stuff. So, yeah, to find me, it would be just Adam Evans on Instagram, or We the Ether on Instagram is the podcast. And then, yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, you can YouTube Adam Evans, or just Google search Adam Evans, stuff like that.
Awesome. Cool, brother. Well, thanks again for being here. Yeah.
Appreciate it.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah,
Thanks for inviting me and coming on. And yeah, maybe we'll talk again soon.
Yeah, anytime, brother. Appreciate you.